This episode is brought to you by the Ultimate Girls Trip. Here is our reoccurring daydream. Us at a drool-worthy pool, surrounded by our business besties. We just finished a powerful exercise on building our dream lives and executing our business goals. Join us if you are ready to be celebrated for taking up space, to feel purposeful, and to live a life of fulfillment. Go to proofitspossible.com for more info. Welcome to Proof It's Possible. Jamie and I are multifaceted entrepreneurs, the founders of the Ultimate Girls Trip, and the hosts of Proof It's Possible. Jamie and I are also sisters, best friends, and complete opposites, but somehow we always manage to stay on the same team. Join us every week to hear our thoughts on all things entrepreneurship, friendship, family, pop culture, and more.
Everyone. Today we are talking about big decisions. So, you know those decisions that are like, if I say yes, then it's going to change my whole life. If I say no, it's going to change my whole life. How do you make those big decisions, or what are some of the biggest decisions you think really change the trajectory of your life?
Oh, I think the most important decision of your life, hands down, the very first most important decision. I think a lot of decisions matter, but like this one changes everything, is who you marry. I think it is a crazy important decision. And I think that it literally sets the tone for the rest of your adult life. Like once you've found that person, you either have a supporter, you either have a best friend, you either have somebody who believes in everything you're doing, or you have somebody that's like, no, this is not going to work, that you can't try your dreams. From an entrepreneurial standpoint, it's a very, very, very big decision. And the person doesn't even have to be entrepreneurial themselves. They just have to believe in you and let you use your own sensibilities. And
I don't even think it has to be about entrepreneurship. Like, I think who you decide to marry is all aspects of your life. Like,
yes,
whether you're a traditional employee, whether you're a stay-at-home mom, whether you're an
absolutely.
entrepreneur. It like, for me, it's even bigger than your job. It's like, how do they manage their emotions? How do they manage their money? How do they because that's all going to be seeped into your life. Like, if they are a hothead, well, then your life is not going to be that peaceful. If they are poor with money, well, then you're not going to be that prosperous,
Affluent.
like
Yeah,
financially
exactly.
affluent. And I think that that's like the biggest decision of your entire life, is that. And then obviously, like, divorce and, like,
Yeah.
who you
Well,
marry and then who you decide to unmarry, if that's like what you need to do.
yeah, exactly. Well, and that's just it. Like I think that one of the things that I always say, you met your husband young, I met my husband older. And like I would have picked somebody very different when I was like 20 than I did when I was 33. Like I had a lot
Yeah.
more adult life to make decisions, and I knew what my adult life would even look like. So I was looking for somebody that was like a lot more emotionally supportive than I would have even thought to consider when picking at 20. And I'm not saying that you couldn't find somebody at 20, because the best relationships, in my opinion, grow together, especially if they start
Right.
young, is that you both grow and like want the best for each other. So you evolve together. And I do think that like as much as like Darren's had a huge influence on me, I've had a huge influence on him too. Like stupid stuff. Like he used to love camping, fishing, anything outdoors, whatever. But like our life together doesn't really include that much of that. So he still loves to fish and does that because that's truly his passion. But now he'll go golfing instead because it's only 4 hours away from home versus like week-long camping trips that it would be very hard for me to be on. And like, I don't really enjoy,
Mm-hmm.
you know? So
Um, I also think where you live
yes.
changes who you become. Like, I just think that I guess it's like, it's not only just like the physical location of it, but like what industries are in the city that you live in, what Are you surrounded by
opportunities.
people that are like big dreamers? Like, so it's not just like the physical location.
For me, it's what I think you're talking about is mindset. It's the
No, no, no,
mindset
no.
of the people around.
What I'm talking about is like that's next, but like physical location. If you're living in a place that has no industry, you're surrounded by people that don't have jobs because there is no industry. You're
Yes,
surrounded by people that are like, because that changes your whole mindset. And you don't
for
have
sure.
anybody to look to be like, oh, well, no, Mr. Jones over there, he owns the local construction company and he's made a go of
Mhm.
it. Like you have nothing inspirational or aspirational to use as your like lighthouse,
Right.
which I think deeply affects your mindset. I think you can have poor mindset in any city, but I think that there's certain places that you're going to live, certain communities you're going to live in, certain neighborhoods you're going to live in, that if you're surrounded by too much negative, then you become negative.
Absolutely. Well, and something else that's interesting is if you live in a place that has a really, really, really low cost of living, um, I've noticed that at the end of your life, let's say you bought a home, your home may still only be worth like $200,000. And you've only if you look at your home as a forced savings, even, um, versus a place where you had to get into the market at 400,000 and then your house went up to 1 million. Your forced savings, the difference between what you've earned within your home alone is a different number. So your retirement looks different because of
Mhm.
that decision. Your financial health looks different because of that decision. And it felt right in the moment because you didn't feel like you had enough money to buy the expensive house when you were young or when you were younger and pay it off. But it, for sure you can't retire with $200,000 when you sell that house.
Yeah,
That's not enough money. So I think that where you live impacts you financially, your mindset,
for
you know,
sure.
and
Mhm.
the higher the vibe in the place that you live and the more opportunity and the more surroundings of like people doing well is absolutely a proof it's possible moment where you're like, okay, well they did it. They're making a business. They bought a gas station and they run it and make great money from it or whatever it looks like.
Yeah.
Um it just encourages you to do the same, like you're saying.
Yeah. And then I also think that like who you surround yourself with. If you
Of course.
surround yourself with like down and outers all the time, well eventually you're going to feel down and out if you don't
Ex-
already. Like it really matters who you spend time with. If you spend time with people that are always gossiping about people, well, as soon as you leave that room, they're gossiping about you. If you always and you're gonna start to gossip too. And if you always spend your time with people who are like, "Oh, poor me, it's hard for me,"
yeah.
victim mentality, well, then you're gonna be the victim too. Like you're gonna find common ground with the people you spend time with. So if all they want to talk about is like how sad it is for them, well, eventually you're like, "Well, yeah, it's sad for me too."
Well, and the other thing about that is if you're somebody that is positive in a place and around people that are not naturally positive, what's going to happen is you're going to come with your positivity and it's going to get squashed. And then the next day you're going to come back with your positivity and it's going to get squashed. And
Mhm.
eventually you lose that muscle to think about and talk about things in a positive way because that is a muscle. Like to reframe, having the ability to reframe negative situations and negative mindsets is, and be like, you know what, this is even just using the like mortgage conversation we literally just had. Um, you could sit around being like, it's too expensive to buy a house for a young person because they start at $400,000, and that is true. Uh, but once you solve the problem and you get the down payment for the $400,000 house, you're now in a $400,000 house in a city or a place that's probably going to increase more
Mhm.
versus a place that's not growing, and you got easily into the $200,000 mortgage without any barrier to entry because it was like the bank was handing you the money because you make enough for that, but it goes down $50,000 in your lifetime because nobody's moving to that town or that place. It's like you can make the $400,000 house the problem, or you can see it as the opportunity. And being able to see the opportunities when in your hardship, in your problem solving skills is such an important quality. What's another decision that you think act like really matters in your life?
Another one is that like what you consume, like both what you eat and what you take in, like on social media, movies,
Mhm.
whatever. I just think that what you eat, for me, I can tell when I haven't been eating like good food. I
Yeah,
have zero energy. I have zero desire to do anything. I'm like, you just become like just not your best self,
for sure.
and the same would go for like consuming of alcohol, or for me it's like lack of consuming. When I don't have any water in a day, I literally am
Oh yeah.
like, I'm a zombie. I'm a true zombie. And so I think that like that act of like self-care is such like an undervalued, or you don't often think that like, oh, this is a big decision in my day, because I don't think like, oh, my breakfast choice is a huge decision in the day. But I
Mhm.
think it small tiny decisions add up to like a big overall decision. And I think that's how you get in the cycle of like always feeling sluggish, feeling depressed, not sleeping well, not doing this, and then that leads to like, well, you know
You don't show up to work and you can't
yeah,
get out of bed in the morning. Yeah,
yeah,
no, absolutely. And then you have depression because you don't like how your clothes fit or you don't like how you
exactly.
feel. Like it's such a bigger small it's a small decision leads to bigger problems
Hmm.
in
And I'm
such a
not
big
saying
way.
that like you have to eat 100% all of the time. Like you have to be, choosing
Totally.
organic and never
Mhm.
eating a carb and all of the things. But I am saying that like there, all these small decisions add up to such a big decision. And if you're doing it
Yeah.
well most of the time, I think you're going to be on the right track. And if you're not doing it well, it's the fastest way to slip into depression, feeling,
Yes,
having low self
for
esteem,
sure.
feeling sluggish, not wanting to exercise, not wanting to go to work, not blah blah blah.
Mhm.
What
I
is a
think
decision you think?
I think investing in yourself. So, an example I have of this is every time that I have put myself in a room or done something that felt stretchy, like something that felt like, ugh, I don't want to spend the money on this. What am I going to get out of this? I don't feel like I feel scared about the investment because I'm not going to, if you buy something like a tangible, like if you buy the purse, you now have a purse to carry around, or like you buy the
Mhm.
house, you get to live in the house. But when you're just investing in like your education or your networking or your community or things like that, it feels very like, is this necessary? But once every single time I've done it, the payoff for me has been so much empowerment that I come home and like almost completely up level my life and change everything. Like, to
Totally.
give you an example, I went to an event, well, we both did, and it's where I said out loud I want to be a public speaker. Came home, became a public speaker, changed my whole damn life, every single bit of it. And that led to things that, like, to this day I can't even list them all because
Hmm.
it put me on a different platform, it put me on a different stage, it put me on this podcast. It was one of the stepping
Hmm.
stones to new and different things.
Hmm.
And so it was like such a small decision. It wasn't like something big like where you live or who you marry. It was like just go to an event for 3 days or go to a somewhere and get clarity on
Hmm.
what you actually want in this life. And it was amazing. Like it's amazing what that investment in yourself can do for you.
I 100% agree. I think I would agree that every time I've invested in myself, the up level has been like
Immediate.
undescribable. It has been
Yep.
such like a rocket ship when I get home. It just changes your whole outlook on life. And I think seeing other people doing what you want to do, or doing something similar, or watching them go from like their starting point to wherever they are now, their current reality, if that's the growth that you're looking for, just being in the presence of people that have that, it rubs off on you and you're like, I can do it too.
Absolutely.
I can do anything. I can.
Yeah.
And I fully 110% think that that is like such a huge part of um, not only like entrepreneur success, but just like success in general. Is that like you have to find a mentor who has
Mhm.
done it already, or they are the proof that it
Yes.
is possible. And it doesn't have to be identical,
No.
but you just have to find that person to be like, help me get where you're going, or help me on this path because you've already done it. I don't want to learn the 17 trillion lessons along the way when you can just give me the cheat code on how to most
Exactly.
effectively do it. And then just give me that inspiration. Let me borrow your inspiration. Let me borrow your belief. Like Christina said in her podcast, like, let me borrow that belief until I
In
believe
you.
it myself. And then you
Yeah,
get home and you're like, oh, I already believe it.
exactly.
I also think investing in general, whether it's yourself or an investment into like a business or an investment into the stock market or an investment into a friendship, all investment in general can change your life. Like whether
Oh,
it's
for sure.
time or money investments.
Mhm. Mhm. And like they don't always go perfect. Like friendships that you invest in don't always go perfect. The investment in the stock market might not be the right one. And like, also, that's why get the right people. Like get the right people in your world and make sure that you talk it through with a financial planner. If that's the like route you want to go or whatever, find the
But
right
isn't that
mentor.
the whole thing with big decisions? They don't always go well. You
No.
don't always choose correctly, but they do
Yeah.
impact your life, good or bad.
Well, they do, and they put you in the next place, right? Because
Yeah,
I think the scariest thing of all is staying still,
me too.
is never making the decision. Like, if there's one key takeaway from today's conversation, it's staying where you are and then being mad that your life, that everyone around you is doing the thing.
Yeah.
Guess what? You didn't make a decision either way because there's no, like, at my high school graduation, someone gave a speech and they talked about basically this room full of bikes to choose from. And they went, they said to each kid, each graduate, like, you get to pick a bike and you get to, but don't stop until you've found the bike you want. Like, that was the lesson. And so basically people walked and walked and walked, and there were some people who they stopped and they took the third bike. Like, they were like, there's a bike that I like, it's purple, it's exactly what I was looking for, perfect, I'm going to get on it and drive away. And then there's people, because they said if you get to the last bike and haven't picked one, you don't get to keep a bike. You don't get a new bike. And so there are people that walk all the way through the room and never pick the bike because they're in like decision overload, and they'd rather than make the wrong decision, they'll make no decision at all and they'll
Mm-hmm.
leave with nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's true. And it's like, just pick one of the bikes, because get on a bike and try it. And then if you want a better bike,
Sell
go
that
to the
bike and
next
get a
room
new
with
one.
bikes.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like it's a possibility to trade in your bike at a later date, but don't sit around doing nothing. Make a
Mm-hmm.
decision one way or the other.
Mm-hmm.
And I honestly think that if we like leave here today on that note, we would love to hear, what is the hardest decision you've ever made? What do you think is the most important decision you've ever made? What has impacted your life in the biggest way? And just your feelings on decision making.
Yeah.
Have a great day, guys. We are so grateful you're here.
It would mean the world to us if you'll subscribe to our podcast and YouTube channel and leave us a review.
If you want to hear more from us, go to proofitspossible.com to join our mailing list and find our social links so you don't miss a thing.
Thanks, and chat next time.